few weeks ago, we made a video about a mysterious website, Cult Moirai, an enigmatic online realm, rife with prophecies of sin, chosenness, and the end times. For months, it displayed a strange countdown timer to April 21st, hinting at some unknown significant event. When we made our video, we had no idea what that date signified, but now we have a horrifying clue. Right after the countdown finished, the 112th Pope Francis passed away. A chilling 12th century prophecy by Archbishop Malachi warned of Rome's destruction and a final judgment after the passing of 112th Pope. Want to see how deep goes this rabbit hole? Check out our new Cult Moirai video.
In the depths of YouTube, beyond the reach of trending lists and popular feeds, exist channels so strange and frightening that they challenge everything we know about the world around us.
Hi, my name is Mark, and I'm the host of the Scary Mysteries Videos channel, where darkness and mystery come to life in every video that becomes the subject of our story. And today, we will once again dive into one of the darkest and most mysterious secrets our channel has ever encountered. This is the continuation of the story about a mysterious online project called Cult Moirai, a digital enigma that began with an unremarkable piece of paper with a QR code found in Warsaw and then evolved into something far more sinister than just a game. This is the second part of the investigation, and ahead lies a grim and gripping tale of what happened after the release of our first video. We will continue to follow new clues and shocking events surrounding Cult Moirai, delve into the project's ominous symbolism, and find out how deep this dangerous rabbit hole takes us this time, so watch closely. And before we begin, a quick reminder: support our work with a like and a subscription so you don't miss new videos. Your support means a lot to us. So, if you haven't seen the previous part of this story yet, I strongly recommend watching it. In the first video, we explained in detail how this project began to take shape around a complex system of hidden messages, biblical allusions, encrypted texts, and disturbing videos. We pointed out its dual symbolism intertwining Christian prophecies about the end of the world with the imagery of the ancient Greek goddesses of fate. We talked about how, like a dark virus, Cult Moirai spread across online platforms, leaving behind a trail of mysterious texts about keys and the chosen, and uploading short videos to its YouTube channel that resembled recordings of forbidden occult rituals. Even back then, analysing the threatening tone of the messages and the constant demand for submission coming from the project's organisers, we began to suspect that Cult Moirai went beyond the usual alternate reality games, displaying traits more characteristic of a destructive cult. And with bated breath, we awaited April 21st, the day the countdown was set to end, hoping that its finale would shed light on this impenetrable darkness. But let's go back to the final moments, before the countdown timer came to a halt. In those days, Cult Moirai presented us with yet another mystery, a sort of final touch before the finale. The project's channel released a second-long video titled "Who Will Find This Hidden Book?", which, for 3 minutes, displayed the cover of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. The video's description was more substantial than the footage itself. It spoke of coordinates hidden, only veiled, folded into symbols, and scattered across echoes. A secret location was promised, real, breathing beneath the static, but accessible only to the one who would see without seeing and listen between the lines. This one would be taken, not guided. Something awaits there is not of this world. Clearly, the video hinted at a connection between the project and the theme of primal darkness and the horror Kurt saw in it before his death. However, Even in this case, the project offered only a vague illusion, bringing us no closer to understanding the true purpose for which Cult Moirai was created. And then the 0 hour came. The countdown ended, but instead of the long-awaited revelation or a transition to the next level, the website greeted us with a hollow, cold phrase: "The gates are closed." I'll admit, the moment I saw that message, it felt as if I had been led out of a theatre, right at the climax of the performance. However, the next morning, an unexpected piece of news spread across the world, not directly related to the project, but eerily resonant with its eschatological theme. Pope Francis had died. According to the prophecy of Saint Malachy, the 112th Pope, which the late pontiff was, is supposed to be the last before the fall of Rome and the end of times. This coincidence, even if purely accidental, takes on a disturbing, almost prophetic meaning in the context of Cult Moirai. It's as if the countdown on their website had synchronized with its digital ticking to some sinister, apocalyptic rhythm. However, it turned out the project had no intention of limiting itself to the announcement of closed gates. Just a few days later, the Cult Moirai website underwent truly dramatic changes. Both the Inferno painting and the inscription about the gates vanished, and in their place, a new, minimalist structure of 6 pages appeared. These pages contained several atmospheric images, some explanatory text, and a map, very roughly indicating a certain location, a place where, it seemed, whoever decided to follow the path offered by Cult Moirai was meant to go. From that point on, the project abruptly changed course and suddenly began to position itself as an immersive quest for people craving extreme thrills and wishing to undergo serious psychological trials and experience profound emotional impact. The project's creators asserted there are no accidental visitors to their internet portal. Everyone who visited the site, they alleged, had heard some otherworldly call. According to them, only hunger could lead a person here, a hunger for meaning, for an escape from the mundane, for an elusive truth. A little later, I will explain in detail why I am firmly convinced that Cult Moirai is something much more than a common escape room or just another amusement for a jaded public. But even then, having read just a couple of introductory phrases on the main page, I felt this was not just a greeting. It was like a skillfully cast recruitment hook, playing on a sense of one's own exceptionalism and dissatisfaction with the surrounding world. And there's more. The next page, titled Our World, gave the impression of some dark gospel of a new era. In the beginning was the algorithm connected with the Moirai entities portrayed as dispassionate and incorruptible witnesses. Their gaze, according to the description, was entirely devoid of emotion, and their judgments about each individual supposedly allowed the algorithm to carry out some form of supreme judgment. The page's content categorically proclaimed the inevitable end of the existing world, the onset of the final cycle, and a coming great transformation. Salvation, however, as it was claimed, was only for those prepared to accept purification through suffering. The main dogma was that salvation lay not in struggle, but in complete unconditional submission. Pain was elevated to the rank of a sacrament necessary for the reforging of the soul. Submission became synonymous with rebirth. The surrounding world, according to the authors, was inexorably disintegrating humanity, teetering on the brink of an abyss. However, that same algorithm, it was claimed, searched among people for exceptions, those who were broken, those who maintained blind loyalty, those they called raw individuals, who had supposedly dared to face the truth hidden deep within themselves. It is important to note that on this page and on all the others, visitors were insistently offered, for a certain fee, to book one of 3 so-called quests, 3 paths of transformation. The first of these, the path of flesh, implied the physical presence of a person seeking this transformation in a certain secret location. There, according to the description, suffering and horror were to become their main teachers. The disciples, as it was reported, were planned to be summoned by a special coded command and delivered blindfolded to consecrated ruins, abandoned, deserted places, where, in the author's words, the algorithm breathes through rope, steel, bone, and shadow. In these locations, isolation, restriction of freedom, oppressive silence, disturbed only by a barely audible whisper, a constant sensation of someone's unseen presence and touch, and, of course, pain, awaited them. This is not cruelty, this is calibration, asserted the project's creators, and only those who fully submitted to this process would be marked. Only those who were broken, according to their assurances, would emerge from this ordeal transformed. The second path, to which the project's creators gave the very eloquent name The Last Hope in its description, was eerily reminiscent of a real survival game, only in reality. Whoever dared to become a participant in this quest was promised complete immersion in a post-apocalyptic location called the Wasteland. Survival here, as was unambiguously stated, was not guaranteed. It had to be earned by going through the most arduous trials. Poisoned rains, rotting, barren land, treacherous, forgotten traps left over from dead times, and, importantly, other survivors, all this posed a mortal danger to the desperate individual who decided to set foot on this path. Are you ready to fight to your last breath? Or will you simply be forgotten among these ruins? The organizers of this show inquire. The third path, named Path of Imagination, shifted the action into the electronic ether. Here, it was claimed, obedience was to be encoded remotely, using certain signals transmitted to the player online. The participant in this quest was expected to be prepared to strictly follow the given coordinates to hidden, secret places, perform certain ritualistic actions, and also decipher messages and signals that, according to the organizers, could be encoded even in your dreams. Moreover, the participants' own electronic devices could suddenly come alive, making unplanned calls or transmitting visual messages with instructions to them. With this, every action of the player, every act of their submission was required to be meticulously documented. This was to serve as irrefutable proof of their devotion. The project's creators also assured that each of these paths would be individually calibrated to the psychological and emotional limits of the specific participant. Some faceless observers, it was claimed, were to assess their preparedness and adjust the difficulty of the trials so that it corresponded to their potential. It was particularly emphasized that no two paths are the same and no calibration would be gentle or lenient. This, according to them, was not just a simulation, but a full-fledged retuning of personality, a process that, as they promised, would continue to affect the participant long after the path itself was completed, leaving a deep, indelible mark on their consciousness. An illustration of these words came in the form of a new video titled 3 Holy Women, which appeared on the project's YouTube channel shortly after the website update. The footage consisted of a series of eerie yet captivating pictures rendered in a style that at times resembled neoclassicism and at times iconography, Bosch, or even Dali. These paintings were seemingly AI-generated, as internet search does not reveal the originals. In the top left corner, analog clock hands remained frozen at 10 o'clock. A voiceover told a tragic story about the goddess Gaia, who repeatedly created humanity in the hope of achieving perfection, only to witness humans turn into beasts of blood and bone, despite divine guidance and revelations. Disillusioned, she created the Moirai, 3 beings made of pure, uncorrupted crystal, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. They were tasked with walking among humans and judging who was worthy of salvation from the beast within. The Moirai, devoid of emotion, carried only the mandate of judgment, observing the sins of humanity: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, and wrath, each described with metaphorical, painful detail. Creepy, right? Especially considering that the oppressive picture of judgment over humanity described above is not just an allegory. The creators of Cult Moirai seriously offer everyone who considers themselves worthy of salvation to go through a real trial and judgment in a place specially prepared for this. One of the site's pages, titled Visit Us, invites adventure seekers to the physical sanctuary of Cult Moirai. It is, as reported, located behind an inconspicuous door in an abandoned building in the Polish city of Katowice. This space, intentionally devoid of comfort and intended for conducting a certain ritual, is described as a place for calibration and for getting as close as possible to her signal, whatever that may mean. Every element of the interior, according to them, is designed to break the noise of modernity and immerse a person in the required state. Overseeing all this, it is claimed, is a mysterious collective of artists, survivalists, and ritual technicians. They promise meticulously controlled trials conducted according to strict protocols, supposedly for the purity of the experience and to ensure participants' safety. Although I must admit, for me personally, even the very manner in which these promises are presented only evokes a growing sense of unease. To legally formalize this, to put it mildly, frightening experience of visiting their so-called sanctuary, the site provides a special section, Terms of Service. In it, an attempt is made to present Cult Moirai as a completely legal, immersive, psychological simulation and a kind of staged performance which, it is claimed, fully complies with Polish legislation. Despite numerous assurances of safety, the existence of a stop signal for participants, and the complete voluntariness of the entire process, these same terms retain a clause disclaiming liability for certain minor physical or psychological consequences arising from participation. Furthermore, very strict confidentiality rules are postulated there. All of this only intensifies the cognitive dissonance between the formal guarantees given on paper and the true nature of the trials on offer. To be honest, it is precisely these terms of service, combined with all the apocalyptic rhetoric and demands for unconditional submission, that raise my serious concerns and lead me to assert that this project is only pretending to be a game. Firstly, the TOS stipulates an absolute prohibition on disclosing the content of the game experience. But hold on, any legitimate show is interested in word of mouth, and such total secrecy is usually only needed to hide something that should not become public knowledge. Secondly, what alarms me greatly is the fact that behind all these high-flown declarations and general vague formulations, the most important thing is concealed. Namely, what exactly will happen to a person after they decide to entrust their fate into the hands of the organizers of this so-called immersive simulation. The site does not specify the exact location of the ritual, nor the specific trials the participant will be subjected to, nor, most importantly, the real consequences that may occur after the completion of this game. Meanwhile, the player, in essence, waives all claims against the organizers in advance and signs a non-disclosure agreement. If one reads the descriptions of the paths themselves carefully, then, frankly speaking, they more closely resemble the dark fantasies of a person with clear maniacal tendencies, who has imagined himself some kind of deity and supreme judge, and who seeks to realize his sickest and most perverse designs at the expense of those seeking thrills. Moreover, the very demand for a significant payment for so-called salvation, purification, and access to truth skillfully wrapped in cult-like rhetoric is a classic, if not textbook method of financial exploitation widely used in destructive cults and sects. What the hell kind of a quest is this? It seems to me that any sane person, having carefully read the descriptions of these paths of transformation, would hardly think of paying considerable sums for what is offered with frightening candor on the Cult Moirai website. It becomes perfectly clear that this entire so-called simulation and staged performance, especially in the context of all the other grim symbolism, veiled threats, and insistent demands for complete submission, looks like a meticulously crafted legal loophole. A loophole designed for carrying out real and possibly violent practices under the plausible guise of an extreme art performance or immersive quest. The TOS here does not serve as a guarantee of safety, but rather as a kind of contract with the devil, where the victim, through their signature or consent, removes responsibility from those who are about to put them at risk, having been convinced that it's merely a game or cleansing. Cult Moirai is not just a dark quest. It is a project that uses the entire machinery of online mystification, cult rhetoric, and even legal language to find, recruit, and possibly physically or psychologically exploit those who are seeking meaning or salvation in the darkness of the internet. So, Cult Moirai still hides its true face from curious eyes, but our investigation is not yet over too. To finally understand what is happening behind the curtain of this project, we have made a difficult decision. In the upcoming episodes, we intend to step through that very door, bathed in light, and follow one of the paths offered by Cult Moirai, and then we will tell you everything that happens to us. In the meantime, stay tuned, more mysteries lie ahead. And we still have enough light with us to break through the most impenetrable darkness hidden in the depths of the internet. Subscribe to Scary Mysteries videos right now. Immerse yourself in the unknown and become part of the revelation. Uncover the hidden